Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to our March Planning Commission meeting. Before we get started, I'm going to lead you on in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Austin is going to lead us in the invocation. If you'll stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads for a word of prayer. Lord, we thank you for letting us all meet here today. Guide us to make wise decisions for the city of Springdale and the citizens of Springdale. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, thank you again for joining us for our March 3rd, 2020 Springdale Planning Commission meeting. I will call this meeting to order. We can do roll call.
Howard Austin.
Here.
Gary Compton.
Here.
Roy Covert. James David. Shannon Mueller.
Here.
Peyton Parker.
Here.
Kevin Parsley.
Here.
Ben Peters. Dale Tyler.
Yeah, we do have obviously a couple of planning commissioners missing, but we do have a quorum here, so we will be able to conduct business as usual in here. So any questions or comments for last month's minutes?
I'd move we approve the minutes from last month.
We have a motion by Dr. Compton,
Second.
second by Mrs. Mueller. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. First item on the agenda is proposed amendment to Chapter 130 zoning to amend Article 12 ballpark area Southwest Springdale District Overlay, Section 3.8. Item number 4, sign requirements for specific use, presented by Patsy Christie.
As y'all will remember, we talked about there is a section in the code now that specifies different types of signs for churches, schools, libraries, community centers, or other public, semi-public facilities. As I told you at the meeting, I've been through a lot. I can't figure out how it got separated out to be so different from the rest of it. So the proposed change that you have in front of you would allow for facilities that are on land areas of 10 acres or less, be allowed to have 2 wall signs, with one on each facade, or if they want to give up one of those wall signs, they could have 1 monument sign, which would allow them to have a Monument 3 sign that was consistent with everything else that's allowed for a Monument 3. The second would be if they have 10 acres or more, they could have 3 wall signs, and again, 2 of those could be monument signs, 1 being a Monument 2 or a Monument 3 sign. Those are the proposed changes I think we talked about at the meeting, and this is a public hearing if anybody wants to make comments.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, it's to the commission.
This would be a motion to move it forward to City Council with a recommendation for approval if you're ready to do that. So moved.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mrs. Mueller,
Second?
second by Dr. Compton.
Austin.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Parsley.
Yes. The amendment passes 5-0.
We will prepare the ordinance to go to council next Tuesday night.
Okay. We have 2 tabled items. And I forgot to let you all know, there's 1 item on the agenda that will not be heard this evening. Large scale L20-08 Pure Springdale, northwest corner of Jean George Boulevard and Deering Road. That will not be heard this evening. It's been tabled to next month. The tabled items from last month that we will hear this evening are R20-06 David Sloan, 3406 South Thompson, from C2 and MF12 to a C5, presented by Blue and Associates.
Amanda Hallmark with Blue & Associates, representing David Sloan for the rezone.
Okay. Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates regional commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan. It's recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentration, to ensure adequate land allocation for commercial areas of sufficient size and in proper locations. Encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists, to include neighborhood community and regional centers and encourage the development of regional commercial that accommodates a variety of wholesale, retail, service, and office areas where the highest traffic volumes and greatest utility demands can be served, and more extensive outdoor display of material will be expected.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Compton,
Yes?
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
Rezoning passes 5-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance, and the request will go to council on the 24th.
Thank you. Next item, C 20-04, Jakers Mark 43 LLC, 276 Victory Lane, tandem lot split, presented by Blue and Associates.
All right, Amanda Hallmark representing Jakers LLC. Pretty straightforward track split, I believe, so.
Staff comments?
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure.
There was a large-scale development approved for this project, which indicated that it was a two-phase project. The first phase was for a building to be constructed with the storm drainage pipe and the detention pond to be constructed in phase one, and I don't think that has been done.
No, that has not been done. I believe they actually stopped construction on that phase.
But the building has been completed,
Yes.
and they occupy the building.
I don't think they occupy the building at the moment. I would have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, Ed, do you know if they've occupied the building? And the reason I ask is I'm not sure why we would move forward with a tandem lot split if we don't have any assurance that the original design of doing the detention was going to be completed before we did
Okay.
another lot split.
Thank you. To the best of my knowledge, I had a final inspection, and I believe a certificate of occupancy has been issued. But there again, it may be sitting on my boss's desk waiting on Curtis, waiting on engineering.
Okay, well,
Engineering might-
it's my understanding, and I have an email from engineering saying that the detention pond hasn't been installed.
Yeah.
So I'm really concerned about why we would be considering a tandem lot split when we haven't completed what was outlined with the large scale before.
Right, understandable. That would be something I would have to get back to you. I would get with my client on that. I wasn't aware of any of the detention pond not being constructed yet. So with that being said, I don't have an answer for that right now.
If the conditional use is denied, you can't reapply for a year. So do you want to table this and go back and discuss it with your client before we take action on it?
Absolutely, table this
Okay.
for sure.
Yes, you'll have to re-notify again because we already
Okay.
tabled it once.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have to resubmit and go through the process again,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, so we're tabling C 20-04.
Right.
Okay. All right, next section, rezoning, R 20-07, Revival Tabernacle Church, 2608 East Emma Avenue, from A1 and I1 to P1, presented by Kenneth Eden.
Good evening. We would like to rezone our property to what it actually is. It's been a church for 22 years, and it's not zoned properly. So we'd just like to change the zoning.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use, but as you said, the church has been there for 20-plus years. I had
Yes.
20-plus years there. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Uses that commonly have moderate to large-scale assemblies of people such as churches, funeral homes, membership organizations, and other institutions should be appropriately located on adequate-sized parcels with sufficient space to accommodate the off-street parking and accessory needs. Such uses should be located so as to minimize any adverse or unique significant burden on adjacent or adjoining land uses as well as that portion of the street system. I guess the church was there first before everything else has been built around it, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. This will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote?
Call for vote by Dr. Compton.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Rezoning passes 5-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance. It goes to council on the 24th of March.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, R 20-08, Rocky Mountain Realty Holding Corporation, 756 Old Wire Roads, from I-2 to P1, presented by Bob Downham.
Yes, I represent the sellers, Rocky Mountain Holdings. It's currently used as an office building, and they're selling it to the party that wants to put a church in it. So we want to rezone it to P1.
Staff comments?
The adopted country of land use plan indicates heavy industrial use for the area. The question I have about rezoning this to a church, not because it's in an industrial area, but the question about adequate parking. Have you all looked at how many parking spaces you can get on the site, and it will accommodate the size of a facility, a church that can be there?
Yes, the buyer's agents here, they went out and surveyed it, and they were going to add a lot more parking to the front and to the back. So I don't know exactly what they were going to do, how much they were going to do, but that's,
Okay, well, they have to get a determination from the fire marshal as to what the occupancy limit is, and then it's one parking space for every 4 occupants when.
and the
but
fire
that-
marshal
that's-
has been there. too.
Okay. That's my only question on this one. Uses that commonly have moderate to large-scale assemblies of people such as churches, funeral homes, same one as I read before, they have to have adequate parking, and that was my only concern, is to make sure they understand they have to have adequate parking.
Yes, they do.
The rezoning request is in keeping with this goal and is recommended for approval.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. It's to the commission. This be a call for the vote.
I have,
Call for the vote?
Hang on.
what is what does the land use plan for this area?
It's industrial use. It's what it's currently zoned. But if you'll remember, we don't have any areas designated on the land use plan for churches, and so
Yeah,
that's, my concern is not because it's zoned industrial as much as because it still has access off of a major street, is whether or not they can meet the parking requirement, so.
okay. Wait, can you tell me where churches are allowed, though?
They are allowed as conditional uses in commercial zone, C2, C5.
They're allowed to 5. It's permitted.
Oh,
in
it's a
5.
permitted use in C5 and a conditional use in industrial zones.
So that would be
Or a, it's not a conditional use in an industrial zone, has to be rezoned to P1 where it is a permitted use.
but it could be rezoned to commercial with a conditional use, correct?
Could be, but that's not what they're requesting.
Right.
Right.
Right, but.
Now, if something happens and the church doesn't stay, that's the only thing it can be used for in a P1. They would have to come and have it rezoned back to some other kind of use. And at that time, the recommendation would be some type of industrial use, because that's what it shows on the land use plan. And the applicant knows that if something happens and the church doesn't go through and it's actually rezoned, it's rezoned. They would have to come back and change it if they wanted to go back to any other type of use.
Did you say that a P1, if a church, if it's zoned P1,
The permitted use in a P1 zone, yes.
what are the other permitted uses in a P1?
Hold on a second.
Because two things that we don't look at during a rezoning is the specific use of the property,
Right.
and we really don't consider parking, even though that was your issue, and I agree with that. I'm trying to look at the fit with the surrounding, and there's not, I mean, it's solid commercial industrial.
No, sir, there's a church right next door to the northeast.
It's been there quite some time, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the northeast.
The permitted uses in a P1 zone are cultural, recreational, and health facilities, institution facilities, temporary classrooms, churches, synagogues, and a healthcare clinic are the only permitted uses in a P1. That other church, how long has it been there, do you know?
A long time. I don't know the length, though.
I don't know either.
So you're saying that the use, I know it was for sale, and the use when it was for sale, or the prior use to what it's being requested at now was what? Commercial or church?
It's the prior use?
Yes.
The ones for sale?
What's been
It's
there?
industrial, but it's been used as an office building for
Right.
several years.
At one time, wasn't that all one track, and it's been split up in the
Yes.
last couple of years, where that office stands by itself? It had some, some storage buildings that went with it, and it's been split off for that, and only been used as an office for the last several years.
Okay.
And so the parking that's existing right now will probably have to be added.
I would be surprised if it could meet the requirements with the existing parking, not knowing how much of the area they intend to use as a sanctuary, and the parking is based on the size of the sanctuary and the maximum occupancy that's allowed. That's how they determine how many parking spaces. And then it has to meet fire code and all that, and building code to be used for that type of assembly, because it's not designed for that right now.
Okay. This will be a call for the vote.
I think we already have that.
You're calling for the vote? You did for the last one.
Dr. Compton? Okay.
Parsley?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have started with Parker.
Yes.
Now it's your turn. Parsley?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Mueller?
Yes,
Went a little out of order there, but that's,
we got them all.
yeah.
Staff
Passes
will-
5-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 24th.
24th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, R 20-09, Ricardo Ballesteros, 5014 Harbor Avenue, from A1 to C2, presented by Ricardo Ballesteros.
Good evening, my name is Ricardo Ballesteros, here to request the property mentioned from A1 to C2.
Staff comments?
Now, you realize once it's rezoned to C2, the house becomes, the single-family dwelling becomes a non-conforming use,
Yes, ma'am.
which means as long as you stay in it, or it's used as a single-family use, it can stay that way. If it's shut down for more than 9 months, it can't be, or 6 months, it can't be reopened as a residential structure.
I do understand that. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use for the property. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, assure adequate land allocation for commercial areas of sufficient size and in proper location, and encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers.
Is that whole area down through there considered?
Austin, did
Master
you,
plan.
yeah, if you look at the colors don't show up very well. They did for just a second, we lost them. The property just to the west of it is zone C2. The property on the other side is zone C1. The property to the north is C5. That whole area, I think we see is in transition to, to a commercial type use.
Okay.
Probably ought to put that on our land use plan for this year, because
Yeah.
I don't think that
The land use plan shows it to be commercial already.
shows a commercial.
Yeah. The zoning doesn't change, the zoning map doesn't change unless somebody requests to rezone it. Right.
I'm saying the land use, you're saying the land use plan shows commercial?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. Be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Now you're first. Parsley?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
Compton?
Yes.
Mueller?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
That passes 5-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance to go to council on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 20-10, Adams Family Properties, LLC, 1641 Butterfield Coach Road, from A1 to C2, presented by Charles Adams.
Hello, Charles Adams with Adams Family Properties. Can answer most questions you have.
Staff comments?
The comprehensive land use plan shows this area for commercial use. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, assure adequate land allocation for commercial areas of sufficient size and in proper locations, encourage the development of a wide range of commercial developments for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers, encourage the development of office and professional uses that provide a transition between residential areas and more intense uses with reasonable building height limitations and adequate buffering and landscaping to ensure compatibility. The reason I put that in there is we usually look at areas like this to have an O1 zone as a buffer zone, and I discussed this with the applicant about using it as an O1, as rezoning it to an O1, so it would be office use only, and he really wants to go to a C2 rather than an O1, which allows for more uses than an O1 would.
Can you read as far as the C2?
In a C2 zone, the permitted uses are citywide public uses by right, cultural, recreational, and health facilities, offices, studios, related services, eating places, neighborhood shopping goods, other shopping goods, trades and services, automotive services, parking lots, temporary buildings, transportation services, healthcare clinic, and indoor flea market.
That was for what? For an O1?
That's for C2.
C2?
Yeah. An O1, well, a C1, which would be the next step down, would allow for citywide public uses by right, cultural, recreational, and health facilities, office, studios, and related services, eating places, neighborhood shopping goods, parking lot, and healthcare clinic. And an O1 would allow for single-family dwellings, townhomes, duplexes, office studios, and related services, home occupations, home office, and a healthcare clinic. And the reason you want to be able to have it C2 is so that you can do an office, more than just an office
Well,
itself.
I'll have vehicles sitting there overnight, which you told me I couldn't do in the O1, and also it's going to be the business that we're putting in there will be doing maintenance for residential places, and I thought that was for like a unit 21 maybe?
A
in the
use unit
C2?
21,
Yeah.
which is trades and services. The difference being is he wants to park equipment and store equipment and vehicles at that location. That's why I know one didn't work.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience?
And only thing I have to point out, it was annexed into the city as a subdivision that was already developed when it was annexed into the city. That's why it's residential and duplex development that came in as A1 and has never been rezoned.
Right, and we pulled up the covenants, and there's nothing against the covenants about commercial use, and since we looked on the land use plan is why we picked that location for commercial.
Questions or comments? Yeah, come to the mic, state your name and address, please.
My name's Terry Hatfield. I live with my wife at 2143 Green Acres Circle, which is in this neighborhood. We've lived there for 27 years. My mother also lives on the street, and I actually represent several neighbors, and we have several concerns here. Our concern, first and foremost, is access to this property, even though it faces Butterfield, is not on Butterfield. It's on the residential street of Green Acres Road. So that's number one. Number two is if you also read the conditional uses in C2, you find such things as recycling centers and all these things that could be a conditional use of C2. We would support a lesser zoning, but we cannot support C2 in this neighborhood. Quite honestly, this neighborhood is very busy. Whenever the duplexes came on Joshua Circle a few years ago, it created an already massive traffic problem in the mornings and in the evenings on this neighborhood. This is a house. This has always been a house. This is a residential neighborhood, and it has been for decades. Given the fact that it's still A1, I'm sure we all realize how long and how established these houses are there. This driveway, as you can see by that picture right there, is the very first one and very close to the intersection on Butterfield. So there's no way that we're going to support a C2. There's no way that we're going to support things being stored there overnight. I understand the fencing laws. I understand all this. It's not my first time. But there's no way that we can support a C2. If he would come back with a lesser zoning, it concerns me in the petitioner's paperwork that was presented today, that when the question was asked, is he going to develop the property, he answers no. Well, we all know that's not right. I mean, something's going to be there. And there's no proposed purpose listed on the paperwork that's here now. So if the proposed purpose, I mean, there obviously is a proposed purpose. We've already discussed the proposed purpose, but it's not listed on this paperwork. So the residents have many concerns about this and absolutely would not support a C2 and absolutely would not support anything being there of any zoning that's going to have access off Green Acres Road.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
I would like to say that there is a trailer right across the street being parked there overnight. The guy works in construction, and so there's trailers there all the time. He's got a trailer with ladders all on it. You know, we're just trying to put an office in there to run a business. We didn't put a purpose on there because we were told that it didn't make any difference on rezoning.
You mentioned that there would be vehicles parked on the property. Can you tell me what those vehicles might be?
I've got one trailer that we need a place to park it overnight, and that will be parked over there.
Thanks.
The commercial property across the street has also been there for many years, but it's not in the neighborhood.
It's not commercial.
The property that's across the street that the petitioner has mentioned has been there for many years and has had assorted uses, but is not in the neighborhood and does not affect the traffic pattern in our neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I live at 3577 Green Acres Road. I'm definitely new to the neighborhood, and I'm certainly not well versed with all of this. I'm a new homeowner, but I definitely have some concerns about this. I've spoken to some neighbors, and they also have some concerns about this. Certainly a C2 just seems a little over the top. I think we could probably drop that down a little bit. It is the only way to get into that driveway is on Green Acres Road. We do have a lot of traffic already in there. I mean, it's just, there's not another way in there. It's right in our little subdivision, and I love our little subdivision. I don't want it to get commercial.
Thank you.
And I would like to mention there's another apron right on Butterfield Coach Road that's on the property.
Yes, sir.
My name is Scott Ray. I'm here representing R.D. Ellenbarger. Mr. Ellenbarger, in addition to building my parents' house some 45 years ago on Johnson Road, has a piece of property that is just southeast of this property, and he has lots of concerns about what rezoning this to a C2 might mean for that property. Mr. Hatfield has done a very good job, I think, of expressing most of those, and so I will not really pile on, but you know, you're looking at making this into, I mean, it almost sounds like industrial with some of the comments being made by Mr. Adams with what he's going to place there and have overnight, and those are real concerns, you know, especially without the barriers that you would normally see with C2. And so we would ask that the commission reject this proposal just because it's not a good fit for the rest of the surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
I would like to ask one more thing. I've heard, and you know how the grapevine is, but
You can make sure to talk in the mic a little bit.
I've heard that we're going to ask for a curb cut on Green Acres Road. Is that right?
I don't think I can. I don't think I can ask for a curb cut on Green Acres.
Okay.
Curbs would be too close
You'll
together.
need to speak in the mic.
Driveways would be too close together. The driveways would be too close together. You can't do that.
Okay, you just said that there's an adjoining acre. Which one is that?
I didn't say there's a joining acre.
Okay.
I said there is a apron
Oh,
for a
an
driveway on Butterfield Coach Road already.
Yeah, there is, but I think, Patsy, I'll get an opinion from you, but, I mean, there's a utility easement there, so, and you can see where that curb cut is now, and the utility boxes that are right there, so I'm pretty sure that curb cut.
There is a utility easement on there too. That doesn't mean it couldn't be used as a driveway.
Okay, it's just really close, that's why I
Yeah,
was asking.
It's close to the area. We haven't laid it out to see if you could get a driveway, meet the turning radiuses or anything like that.
Right.
That's not an issue that we deal with the rezoning application.
Right, and I mean, the residents that I represent and myself, we've done this for a long time. I mean, it's gonna be something at some point in time, but a C2 zoning does not fit in this neighborhood, and especially with access off Green Acres Road at all.
Do you have people here that are with you and you're representing them, or?
I'm sorry, I don't. The timing of the meeting is not conducive to a
Okay.
lot of people. I'm sorry, Patsy.
Okay, just wanted to see if there were more in the audience.
Yes, sir.
All of the property at Springdale, why
Can you-
would you pick a place like that?
I'm sorry, can you state your name and address, please?
I'm sorry.
Can you state your name and address just for
My
the
name is
record?
R.D. Ellenberger.
Okay, and your address?
I just moved to Hinesville,
Okay.
so I can say why would somebody come with all of the property in Springdale in the suburbs and try to destroy it? Could you answer that to me?
Well, he is allowed to come and ask for it with the explanation that he gave. And it's this body's determination is whether or not that rezoning request should be approved or not.
So,
We can't keep him from coming to ask for it if that's what he wants.
okay, but we, as a landowner, we should have some rights too.
And that's what they're listening to, yes,
Okay,
okay?
so that's what I've got to say, that I'm here to defend my property. I defended the country in Korean War, but now I'm here to defend my property. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? To the commission?
I have just a quick question. Is all of Butterfield Croach Road on the land use plan, is that commercial?
Most of it is, yes,
West side.
on both sides. I mean, there's commercial that backs up. Do you have the land use plan on there, Austin?
This is it. It's pulled up.
Okay. It's hard to tell what the colors are on that.
I believe it indicates commercial.
Okay, yeah, the land use plan shows most of Butterfield Coach as a commercial development along there. It just happens that this property came in and it has a residence on it. In providing the kind of buffer, it would go to a 1, not a C1 or an O1. C2 is highway commercial, it is on the highway, he has the right to ask for that too, so. Now, before we go further, I want to give you the opportunity, do you want to leave the request as a C2?
I have to leave it as C2. That's what we were looking for. That's the reason we found the land use plan, and we found property for sale in that land use plan that was for C2.
Okay. I just wanted,
I
well,
can't use it any other way.
an
because it's not
O1
what
is
we have to use.
technically a commercial zone too. It's listed as one of the commercial zones. I just want to give you the opportunity to see if you want to downgrade it
Okay.
to something less. And if you say no, then we'll move forward with this,
Okay.
with this request.
And is it because of the equipment?
It's the use that we're going to be using it for, like doing light maintenance to, because we own rental property, so we'll be putting our business in there that will be taking care of other people's property. That's the land use for C2. And also because we do have a trailer that we will be parking over in the parking area after we get that approved with the engineering department on putting parking in there, which, you know, all that's got to be approved through the engineering department here in Springdale.
And if it was just used for an office where people came and picked up their keys and paid their rent and that kind of thing, it could go in O1 zone.
Right.
It's when you bring that other equipment and park it there, that's where it won't fit in an O1 zone, and you go to a C2, because as you said, it becomes a use unit 21, which is trades and services.
Yes, and, you know, I understand people being scared about a lot of traffic. There's not going to be hardly any traffic in there, except when we've got, when I come in and pick up a trailer in the morning, we meet at the place, we do the work, we come back. Occasionally, we've got an employee that will come pick up their check on Thursday.
Okay, but you've heard me say this before, I'm gonna say it again. Once you rezone it to C2, any of those things that are allowed can go in there. I'm not
Right.
saying what you're saying you wouldn't
Yes,
do,
I
but once we
understand
rezone
100%.
it, anything that's allowed can go in there, and it's not a question anymore. The house could come down tomorrow, we could put
I
something
agree
different in there,
100%
it goes
with
to
yes.
C2. That's the other side.
What options are there from a conditional use perspective?
There is, well, there's not the conditional use for that in an O1 or a C1 to add it as a trades and services. That's not a conditional use in either one of those zoning classifications. So the lowest classification that was available that allowed him to do what he wanted to do is a C2.
I can't support it, even though the land use plan says that. And the reason for that is because this is a house. And if you bought 3378 Green Acres Road, you bought that under the assumption that that was a house. And our number one goal is to protect residential uses. That's that, and so if this were a metal building, and there's several on Butterfield Coach Road that may adjoin residential property, I could support it. If it was designed as a commercial building 25 years ago and kind of off and on had uses like that, I can't support converting a residential property into a commercial property simply because our land use plan happens to code that pink. You know, and maybe I could get on board with the 01.
I could appreciate that, but the citizens of Springdale, they're looking to where they can put their business, and so we can only go by what we can find out there, which is the land use plan.
You know what you could have done too? Before you bought it, you could have put it, the purchase conditional on having it rezoned to C2.
Yes, you're right.
Right?
Yes.
So you took the risk by buying it thinking that, you know, because the land use plan happens to be pink here, that you could easily probably get it rezoned. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I mean, you looked at the land use plan, but you can't buy something with the thinking that you're guaranteed a rezone, right? Because it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, we own property all over Springdale, and we didn't buy that knowing it was guaranteed, because if not, we can always put renters in it. That's all down there is renters.
Right, so that's, and that's all I'm saying is that.
And renters could be a lot worse than what we're proposing to do there is commercial.
I'm not arguing with that either.
O1 zone is still a commercial use. So if he downgraded it to a O1, it's still in keeping with the land use plan. Commercial pink on there doesn't guarantee that it's going to be all C2 or C5.
No, that's true. That's true too. Absolutely. I'm just, yeah.
To clear that up.
No, you're absolutely right. Pink could be a number of things, but, you know, I just, that's where I stand on it.
Well, I mean, you bring up some very valid points in there, and, I mean, first of all, this was an annexed area. We've had other areas in Springdale, North Springdale, that, you know, we had some similar circumstances. And, you know, when you do have very established residential, and I get that you've got a major artery as far as Butterfield in that regards right there, but that came after a lot of these houses were in this position as far as expansion of that road. And you're going to have areas along those major corridors like that are residential. And I don't have a problem with your business in that piece. What I struggle with, and you know, I've been pretty vocal about this before, these use units in some of these commercial zones is way too broad. And consistently have been bringing that up as far as we need to look at some other commercial classifications, use units to deal with these types of circumstances. It's a difficult circumstance in that regard, because I think you do have a valid business that fits within this piece, but what we always have to look at is worst case scenario. What use unit could go in there, and what does that mean as far as to the overall properties in that area? So
I think also there are lots of properties all over Springdale that have a residential home on them that are going to be commercial properties or may already be commercial properties. But I think the problem that I have is that it's next door to a residential house that's being used as a residential house, that's a subdivision. So for me, something like O1 or C1 would be.
And I would be glad to do O1 or C1. I just can't do the business that we're doing in that classification. I'm not taking C1 because we have any ulterior motive. That's just the lowest grade that I could find to put our business in.
this will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Austin,
No.
Compton,
No.
David,
No.
Mueller,
No.
Parker,
No.
Parsley.
No. This does not pass 6-0.
Thank
You
you.
have the right to appeal the planning commission's decision. You have to file that with the city clerk's office within 15 days indicating why you think the planning commission's decision was an error, and you have to notify all the adjacent property owners again.
did you all hear as far as the, okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 20-11, Leo Dale Montgomery trustee, 6308 Harbor Avenue, from A1 to O1, presented by Wayne Van Hook.
I'm Wayne Van Hook. I'm with Crylike Realtors. I live at 3654 Laurel Ridge in Springdale. What we're coming to you tonight for is it has been a dwelling house. Most of you'll know where the Brush Creek Golf Course is. So it's got the golf course on one side, the big metal building that you see. Across the corner is the lift station for the Springdale Water Department. Some people don't know that's what's in that building, but y'all do.
Looks like a house, but it's a lift
It
station.
looks like a house,
Yeah,
but it's a
lift station.
pump station, if you look in the windows. We have a buyer that wishes to change this, if we can, to 01 Neighborhood Office. This would be the offices of a Genesis Partners, which they have a company called Home Helpers. This will be the administrative offices for them. Even their employees go to people's homes. They're not there, and they're high tech, so even they don't even come after their checks. They're deposited for them. But so there won't be a whole lot of traffic there. They have agreed to come back to planning to set the number of parking spaces and everything that's needed. If you have any questions, Tatum Mowenby's here, and Mr. Montgomery, the seller. It will still have a residential tone, but it will not have any. They sell nothing. They have no retail, anything like that. It's just it'll be the administrative offices for their home health care system.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates low density residential use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Encourage the development of office and professional uses that provide a transition between residential areas and more intense uses with reasonable building height limitations and adequate buffering and landscaping to ensure compatibility.
Any questions or comments from the audience?
I might say too that it will be bringing jobs to our area. They won't be right there, but they'll be working in Washington-Benton County.
Great, thank you. Let's do the commission.
No comments?
Nope.
Nobody?
Oh.
Yeah, I think.
Any comments? Okay. Let's do the commission.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Dr. Compton.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
This passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 24th.
Right. Thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank you, guys. Next item on the agenda, R20-12, Brenda Lazenby, 3018 East Robinson Avenue, from A1 to C5 and MF12, presented by ESI.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lazenby. It's my mom's property. I also work for ESI. So she's looking to market this property for future development, and so it looks like, we looked at some layouts, looks like C5 at the front is going to make the most sense, and the MF12 at the back would be flexible for a variety of potential uses and help us market that property and sell it. Thanks.
Staff comments?
The comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial and residential use for the property. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies. The comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Appropriate locations for single-family and multifamily residential development should be provided based on accessibility, site suitability, utility availability, neighborhood compatibility, and environmental factors. Assure adequate land allocation for residential purposes by providing lots of adequate size, and allow an increase to medium or high-density residential use when land values prevents economical development of low-density residential. And I will point out that the MF12, the height requirement is nothing higher than 2 stories, which puts it adjacent to all those residential areas. That would allow nothing higher than 2 stories. And it is MF12 to the east and SF3 and MF4 and SF2 around it on the other sides.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Rezoning passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 24th.
Next section, conditional use, C 20-06, Kenzie Tucker, 4303 Kendra Avenue, use unit 29, home occupation in SF2, presented by Kenzie Tucker.
Hello. So this is just something I want to do out of our spare bedroom. I'm creative, and I have a sewing machine, and I want to try to sell some stuff on Etsy or something just to see how it goes.
Okay. Staff comment?
The ingress and egress is acceptable, the off-street parking is acceptable, refuge and service areas is acceptable, utilities is acceptable, a sign will not be allowed. The yard requirements, the size and shape of the track is acceptable, there is no landscaping requirements, and it's general compatibility with the adjacent properties and other property in the general district with the following conditions. No alteration of the outside appearance of the residential structure or provision of a separate outside entrance for the business areas of the residential structure. No outside storage of materials required for the operation of the business. Operated only by the resident members of the household. Shall not have any employees, concessionaires, or other form of operator or helper, whether such business is conducted on the premises or off the premises. Requires the use of an area no greater than 30% of the total heated living space of the residential structure. Generates no traffic, parking, and sewage or water usage in excess of what is normal in the residential neighborhood. Will not produce any fumes, odors, noise, or any other offensive effects that are not normal to residential activity. Will not involve accessory buildings. Stock and trade shall not exceed 10% of the floor area of the accessory use. Will not require the construction of a duplicate kitchen or the addition to the existing kitchen. Will not require cause the consumption on the premises of any food product produced thereon, and will not provide medical treatment, therapeutic massage, or similar activities. Okay?
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Dr. Compton.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David.
Yes. Conditional use passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on March the 24th.
Thank you.
Next item, C 20-07, Rebecca Soto, 1101 South Thompson Street, use unit 44, mobile vending, and a C2, presented by Rebecca Soto.
We've approved for this.
Hi, Debbie.
You have a fan club?
Tell us what you want to do. Tell us what you want to do.
So my name is Rebecca Soto, and I own the Little Red Barn. So I'd like to bring my hot, fresh churros to you guys here in Springdale. Offered the opportunity at the 10 Box, located on Thompson and Sunset. I'm here to ask you guys, he's nodding yes, so we'll get some hot tamales and some hot churros here. Asking permission to bring my truck at this C2 location at 10 Box.
And you're going to park it there and leave it there, right?
I will park it there and leave it there. I have about less than 10 huge events in Northwest Arkansas that I will move it out and bring it back.
Okay.
It is a trailer, so it's it has the 4 wheels. It's not like a truck or anything. That's the little barn there. So primarily, God willing, that will be the home for the Little Red Barn in the city of Springdale.
Staff comments?
Ingress and egress is acceptable. The off-street parking and loading areas are acceptable. The refuge and service areas, you need to show us where you're going to put trash containers on the site because we didn't see any of those. Have to keep the
Okay.
trash picked up.
Okay.
Utilities are acceptable. Screening is not required. The signage will only be on the truck, on the trailer itself?
Yes.
You don't have any other signage?
No, it's on the trailer.
Yard requirements are acceptable. Size and shape is acceptable. Landscaping is not required. It is generally acceptable with the following conditions. May not operate between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. The health certificate is required. Display the health certificate in a manner visible to customers. No obstruction of pedestrian or motor vehicle traffic flow. No obstruction of traffic signals or regulatory signs. No vending upon a public way. No sound device that produces a loud and raucous noise in violation of city ordinance or violate any other city ordinances in connection with the vending operation. Site to remain clean and free of paper or refuse of any kind generated from the operation of the business, with all trash or debris accumulating within 20 feet of any vending stand to be collected and disposed into a trash container.
Okay.
Where on the property will this go?
On the
She had
north
a
side.
site plan. Did you get the site plan?
Is it where that red box is?
Yeah, it's-
Kevin, she's looking
it's
at
the same
putting the
location.
unit right there,
It's the same location that we had one
Okay.
previously.
right
that-
there.
And there was one before
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I don't know if did the other one ever set up?
They did.
Okay. Yeah, okay, they just weren't there very long, but it's the same location.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. This be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Conditional use passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, C 20-08, Arkansas JRD Church, 3430 West Sunset, Use Unit 42, Church Synagogue in a C2, presented by Carter Anian. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Anthony Habon, and I'm with my pastor, Carter Hanian, and we are representing our church, Arkansas JRD Church, and our new location will be at 3430 West Sunset Avenue, Springdale, Arkansas, and we're going to lease this building as a church building for now.
Okay, where are you now?
We used to be at 105 East Avenue, was here in Springdale, Arkansas, but the owner just sold the building, and we're kind of in a bind right now, so.
Yep.
Staff comments?
The ingress and egress to the property is acceptable. The off-street parking and loading area is acceptable. They have signed agreements from the adjacent property owners to use parking adjacent to it. The refuge and service areas are acceptable. The utilities are acceptable. Screening is not applicable. We don't know what kind of sign. Are you putting up a separate sign, or will you
Yeah,
be
we're gonna
using-
put some small sign on the doors.
Okay. Will you be using, there's some signage at the street. Are you going to be using that too?
Probably,
Okay.
if it's requires. Yeah.
Okay. Yard requirements are acceptable, the size and shape is acceptable, landscaping is not applicable, it's generally compatible with the adjacent property and other properties in the general district with the following conditions. Modification to the building is outlined by the building department, the signed parking agreements have to be provided, and you have to meet the requirements of the sound ordinance. Okay?
Anything from the fire department?
They've met with there, and they have some conditions of things that they have to have
we did.
modifications to the building. They are aware of what has to be done, and that has to be approved by them before they can occupy the building.
Okay.
And you guys can go through more details if you want to know what they are.
I'm good. I just wanted to
Yeah, no,
make sure.
they've gone through it, had it inspected. They know what needs to be done to the building, and it's included. We know what has to be done before they can occupy.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Dr. Compton?
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Conditional use passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the March 24th.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next item, 20-09. I'm going to pronounce that wrong.
I'm not going to help you either.
Oh, come on.
I bet they can help you with what that name is.
IntegraSite.
IntegraSite, thank
Yes.
you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, hang on,
Okay,
760
sorry.
Butterfield, sorry, I was just, it's been a long day on it. So 760 Butterfield Coach Road, use unit 33, supporting, self-supporting tower and antenna structure or monopole in an A1, presented by Greg Staggs.
Good afternoon. I'm here tonight to represent AT&T Wireless. We have a couple of representatives here as well that would be glad to address any questions. AT&T is asking for a conditional use permit on this A1 zone property based on city ordinance requirements. And this location, we feel, is in keeping with the spirit and intent of the zoning code, and it will enhance the safety and connectability of the community, businesses, and the commuters that are up and down Butterfield Church Road at all times. I went through there today, and it's a very busy road. That whole community there seems to be very much growing, and there are new developments all around that property. There's a multi-use, multi-resident new complex that has gone in just north of our property that we're proposing. The parcel of land where we are locating is the highest, we feel is the highest and best use for this parcel. It provides a much-needed service to this community. The purpose of this site is to provide FirstNet for first responders and emergency personnel. This site will also provide wireless broadband, AT&T coverage with 5G technology to the citizens, business, commuters, and residents. Over 90% of all 911 calls happen from cell phones, and I myself do not have a home phone. I have only wireless. All my devices are wireless as well. And that's the age that we're in at this point in life. All these, a lot of times these counties and first responders, and a lot of times the themselves, they'll move into the FirstNet program for their own personal phones, as well as the departments themselves, because it's a lot quicker system. And there's a representative here that can go further in detail if that's required as well. This purpose, AT&T is currently requesting to construct a 100-foot wireless transmission tower. It's a monopole at the property of Nancy Wallace Fink. It's currently used as a cow pasture. She has no interest in developing it in any other way. This property has been her family for a long, long time, and everything around it has developed over the years. We currently are in the middle of her parcel. We have a parcel to the north, if you'll see that line to the north at the Crooked Road. That's a separate landowner that has the same A1 use, as well as there's another parcel between those two tree lines that's another A1 use, and we're in between those two. The tower, due to the 150% setbacks for the fall zone for the tower, is located exactly in the middle of the parcel, and it does meet those setbacks. We have about 540 feet from Butterfield Church Road. A tree line there will screen the bottom part of the tower, and it's, as I mentioned, it's only 100 foot tall, so a lot of those trees in that area could be anywhere from 60 to 70 foot tall, maybe even 80 foot tall as well. So the height is definitely needed at 100 feet to supply the coverage needed to that entire community. I have some maps that show the RF engineers' propagation of what that would look like. Currently, it's in dire straits. It needs a lot of extra coverage. With this tower, in addition to their network, it will add a lot of benefit. AT&T spends a lot of money on these towers. They would not do this investment here if it was not a very needed entity. The only reason they do it is because of customers complaining that they are dropping calls or things of that nature, and it's an offset for those types of issues. AT&T has in locations such as Springdale, new sites are required to meet growing customer demands for bandwidth-sensitive applications. Because the distance covered by wireless transmissions directly affects the digital bandwidth and the ability for us to speak on our phones, to use our wireless devices. And if there's an emergency on any of the roads around that community, If it happens anywhere, if you had a landline in your home and you're outside, or if you're down the street and you're in an accident, this FirstNet or the 5G network that's coming into this neighborhood, in this area, in this community, that shoots all the way from this location down Protofield Church Road. That's Commons Avenue that's just south of there into that very large neighborhood. There's a school that's at the west side of that neighborhood, Parson Hills Elementary. Anything happens, such as power outages and things of that in that area, this site also is designed with a backup generator. And in case of power outages or storms or things like that, people can still use their cell phones. And it's natural gas as well, so it's not needed that a servicer will be coming in to do a lot of filling or anything like that. It's a very low access site. You can expect maybe 2 to 3 people a month at the most accessing this for any type of work. I'm open for any questions.
Staff comments?
You want to?
Just really quick, can I ask a question? How many acres is that site?
How big a tract is it? No, it's not. It's, how big is the tract? How many acres is it?
I'm going to the front, sorry.
Okay, I
It's
don't
on my
have it.
CDs here. Let
I
me
don't
go to
have
the
it
front.
pulled out. 10, is it not?
It's a 10-acre tract, and you'll be using up about 0.16 of it.
And it's right, pretty much in the center of it.
In the very center, yes.
Tell me about the base of the monopole. What's the structure around the base?
Okay. The monopole itself will be in the center of the fenced-in area. We have an 8-foot cedar plank fence that'll be around the outside of it. It'll be completely screened. None of the equipment that AT&T or the others use is ever taller than 8 feet tall. 6 foot to 5 feet is normal. Normally it's a cabinet with maybe an over structure. So the only thing you actually see from any location, even on the road itself, the access road, is just the pole itself.
Is it white?
It's actually galvanized steel, so it reflects the light. So really, engineers and the tower design companies have come with a lot of. I've seen one in Hot Springs that was painted multiple colors. Over the years, that paint fades, it peels, things like that. The galvanized steel actually reflects either whatever, it's the sky or whatever. So it does tend to blend better in our experience.
It doesn't look like a big tree.
We
Right.
have some famous or maybe infamous poles in northwest Arkansas
Yeah.
that have been made to look like pine trees and so on. You don't have any plans to do that, do you?
No, sir.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
They end up looking like bottle brushes mostly.
Kind of do, yes.
Yeah, they're almost comical.
Right.
Thanks.
And as you can see, we do have the site plan. We've been through the site plan itself.
How will they how will they access it?
It has an access easement that comes off of Butterfield Coach up to that. You see at the bottom of that.
Right here.
Yeah, that's the access into it. The ingress and egress is acceptable. There's not any off-street parking required. The utilities are acceptable. The screening is acceptable. There will be no signage except standard signing that goes with a keep out, that kind of stuff that's on there.
There's a small sign that's required by the FAA for the numbering of the site, as well as on the front gate, but normally that's all they put.
Okay. The size and shape of the site is acceptable. The proposed landscaping is acceptable. It's generally acceptable with the adjacent properties as long as it meets the general standards outlined in the city ordinance, in that the tower has to be set 150% from all the residential areas, which we know it does that. We have a site plan that goes along with this. It has to have FAA and FCC approval, which we know you have those. It has to have a lighting on it that is allowed by FAA and what the standard lighting package. It's all structural material and hardware to be of galvanized material. The backup generator, it will have to have a residential type muffler, not powered by a gasoline engine. You already said it will be gas powered or natural gas. The wood fence has to be 8 feet in height, which you've already told us is going to be that, and it has to be able to screen all the standard equipment that's inside. We have a plan of vegetation control for inside and under and outside the fence. It's included. And the project is designed to allow secondary installation on a single site where technically feasible and visually desirable. And you showed the need for it as part of the long-range plan of meeting the needs of the area too. So
Right.
it meets all those requirements.
So that last comment that you had, if they came back with a second tower, they would not have to
No,
come back
they're not talking about a second tower. They have to allow somebody else to install on it if there's a second user that can use it.
That's correct.
Right, and they
This-
don't have to come back to ask you to do that. They have to go to building inspection for those determinations.
Around
We've got to
page
go back there.
A3 on the drawings, I believe, it'll show the design, and it's designed as a multi-tenant tower with someone at 95 feet, 85 feet, 75 feet,
Okay.
depending on the engineers, and they can beef it up in the future. But becomes expensive if they don't pre-design it for that, so they have done that.
Yeah.
And that's not putting up another tower at that site. They can't put up another
Yeah,
tower.
while the
Right.
primary use is for cell tower uses on that latest technology out there, edge computing was actually putting servers on those in order to do processing and things like that. So that's typically what you'd probably have coming out.
Other kinds of things that
Right.
didn't happen when we wrote this.
Right.
There is
This
wireless
regulation.
internet that has come along and things like that, that also will provide to that community instead of the standard landline internet.
Yeah, anything else on that? Let me get, any questions or comments from the audience? If you'll state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Najera. I live at 654 Busterfield Coach Road, right next to that property. And we're not in favor of them putting that tower because we read on the internet that it could cause you cancer. And we have small kids also that live there with us. We have lots of time living there since like 2004.
Y que además también tenemos entendido que si ponen, que la antena está muy cerquita de la casa de nosotros y pues eso afectaría también el valor de la propiedad.
So like the antenna is like right next to our house, and they could like give like the value of our property lesser than what it is right now, and well,
Pues sí, pues que quisiéramos saber más en qué nos afecta, porque lo que yo he visto estuve investigando y pues que sí nos puede hacer daño a la salud.
so we want to know more like what is it gonna affect us, and like I said that we looked in the internet that it could cause you like very like health problems to you.
Okay, let me explain that the FCC regulations that allow for cell towers does not allow the city to get into the discussion about whether or not it has effects on health issues as far as that's concerned. What we're ensuring is that it is located far enough from your house that if it falls, it will not hit your house, and it does meet that requirement. It has to be 150 feet from the edge of your property, and it meets all of those requirements, so, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Let's do the commission.
Is the road going to be paved, or is it just going to be a drive up? How will you access it exactly?
The access road that was shown from Butterfield Coach Road that comes back to it is about 500 feet long before it turns into it. That's currently where the cattle farmer uses the access. We're just going to improve that existing road. It's going to be a 12-foot road bed that's going to be built up so that it doesn't bog down and cause a nuisance, things like that. Our easement is actually 30 feet wide to allow for when the internet does come in there, the fiber lines and the power for the equipment, things like that. As that access is in there, it'll go up should go up the same access road, and that's all going to be developed to the standard that's shown in the drawings.
There's no standard required that it has to be paved to it, as long as they have an access that's, whether, we don't want it to rut up by running equipment, and that's why you say you're building a suitable
Right.
base for it to operate down through there.
It's, in my experience, I was in operations for a long time, and with these roads, if you came in with the equipment we use, a lot of times they would put asphalt on it and things like that. This limestone, if it's under normal traffic, lasts for at least 20 years without any maintenance. When it's in this particular road is actually just for our use only, and it will never deteriorate beyond that.
Okay.
What was the fall line again?
It's 150 feet from the base of the tower, because it's 150% of the height of the tower plus any antennas, so it's at least 150 feet.
So it's at least 150 feet from
And how
that
far did you
home.
say it was to the edge of the property from that?
It's where the tower is located. It looks like it's 153 feet from the north and the south property lines, And the tower is 100 feet tall, so it's 150% of the fall area.
Meets that fall requirement. yeah.
The radius, that circle is just the fence, right? That's the
Right.
fence line.
Survey, yes.
That's what's required in order for it to be at that location. It's 150 feet, 150% of the height of the tower plus any antennas. The only thing it has on top of it is a lightning rod, and that doesn't count. And the lightning rod's not very tall.
Man,
Well, I know AT&T has an app called Mark Your Spot, and I'm probably their #1 user as far as wearing that out for where coverage is minimal, and that whole piece on it. so.
I would reiterate that I appreciate the fall zone, especially for landowners that may be aware that that's, just they have concerns, but the poles are not designed to fall, but if they do, normally they would just fall within their own compound. So that 150 foot is a very safe margin.
This be a call for the vote?
Call for the vote?
Call for vote by Dr. Compton?
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley.
Yes, the conditional use passes 6-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 24th.
Thank you. Next item, C 20-10, Justin and Bobby Looney, 4897 Whittle Road, tandem lot split, presented by Justin Looney.
And then you have a variance request too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to that.
And on the variance, that should be to allow the building to remain as is.
Okay.
Instead of
It's really, go ahead.
Just here to ask for a lot split. Basically, it'll be, as shown here, to divide the current property into two. 10 acres on the one side that would be, remain with me, and then 6 acres on the other side from that would be, I guess, given or deeded to the Brawleys, which own the property directly in the center of that area. So,
Staff comments?
I don't think, Austin, is there any issues on this one?
The only issue is the existing structure
Right.
violating the setback as is, yeah.
And you want to explain about the existing structure that's there?
the one, there's a well house that was constructed 60 years
I'm
ago,
sorry,
I guess.
can you pull the mic up? a
Sorry.
little bit? Sorry.
There's a well house that was constructed when the house was 60 years ago or so, that's right next to the property line, and we just don't want to do anything with it unless it absolutely have to, so.
And that well house is only being used by the property owner's grandparents who live there, and
Yes.
they have the right to live there the rest of their lives?
Correct, yes.
Don't want to mess with any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
They are.
Is that it? Okay, any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
Lot split passes 6-0.
Okay, and then the variance to allow the warehouse to stay.
Yeah.
We need to take a separate action on that too, so that the well house can stay.
Okay, so on the Board of Adjustment. Okay, so B 20-09. It's listed as tandem lot split again, but it's a variance here.
And it's just to allow the existing building, which is that well house, to stay at that location. And I assume once the grandparents are gone, the well house goes away too, and you would do away with the well? Is that what you anticipate?
Yes, I mean, yes, at any point where it would have to go away, it would, so.
Okay, any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. This will be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote?
Call for vote by Dr. Compton.
Okay. David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Variance passes 6-0. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Next section, we have preliminary plats, replats, final plats, replats 20-03 of Lot 24 Oak Condition, north of East Robinson Avenue, west side of 265, presented by Allen Reed and Associates.
Yes, my name's Larry Marion. I'm a realtor with Bassett Nixon Associates here in 3263 North College Avenue in Fayetteville.
Is he authorized to represent, is Alan here?
No.
Okay. Alan's back there, okay.
Oh, Alan is there?
You got to be authorized to represent it, so you're not on the authorization, but as long as Alan's here and you guys are doing this together? Okay, that's fine.
By all means, with Mr. Reed here, he can certainly do it.
Okay.
You know,
We have to have someone who's authorized to represent it, and we don't have you down as being authorized to representative, but we do have Alan down, so, okay.
Mr. Reed,
You're the person who are authorized to speak for this, okay?
Let's go. But I can ask Larry if I need help, right?
Right.
Okay. Yes, my name is Alan Reed. I'm here tonight representing Betty K. Killian on her request to replat Lot 24 of the Oaks Edition Phase 11. And her intention is to make that lot a little bit smaller.
Okay, staff comments?
We have no comments left. Everything's been addressed.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. This be a recommendation.
We have no comments, right? It's ready to go. So a recommendation to make the lot smaller?
Yeah, it's a motion to accept the replat.
A motion to accept.
Motion by Mrs. Mueller,
Second?
second by Dr. Compton.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Replat passes 6-0.
If you want this to go to council next Tuesday evening, the ordinance needs to be in our office by
Noon Thursday.
By noon Thursday, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Next item on the agenda, large-scale L 20-06 Aspen Park Building C, north side of East Robinson, west of FedEx Drive, presented by Bates and Associates.
Good evening, Christian McGuire with Bates and Associates.
You want to tell us what you're proposing here?
This is a building here off of a 412 next to Napa Auto Parts. It'll be used for
Right now, open lease space. This is Dave Burris Architecture, architect of record here on this. So right now, open lease space for both business and warehousing.
You want to tell us about the elevations, what the building's going to look like?
So there you go. Do you also have the?
Can you raise that mic up?
Do you also have the renderings available?
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So I've got enlarged ones here if you wanted to put those up there. But so this is precast concrete panels, pre-engineered metal building, single slope to the south side. We've tried to indicate in those renderings there the landscaping that was kind of per our civil engineer's landscape plan, try to be in keeping. Some projections were provided at the corners as well as the center. Storefront glazing is also used. This building does set back off the road. Contextually here, this is it's kind of is in an area here where there are some other buildings with gable roofs. We've tried to provide a parapet around 3 sides and again, single sloping to the rear.
Staff comments?
All comments from the utility companies and other city departments must be addressed prior to approval of construction plans. Utility lines have to be put underground, anything excluding 12 kV and above. Exterior ground-mounted or building-mounted equipment, including but not limited to mechanical equipment, utilities, and banks of meters, shall be screened from public view with landscaping or with an architectural treatment compatible with the building architecture. Provide details for screening of proposed HVAC locations. Are you putting those on the roof or in the back?
They are split systems, so they'll be smaller condensing units and most likely in the rear of the building.
Okay, they have to be screened
Yes, ma'am.
with either landscaping or material similar to the outside of the, and you need to provide us with those details, because we didn't get that in the plan that was,
Very good.
provide the call out for the scored stamped concrete sidewalks. And that's the only other things that we have left.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission. This be a motion.
Make a motion,
Subject to staff comments, right?
subject to Patsy's comments and staff.
Motion by Dr. Compton,
Second.
second by Mrs. Mueller.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Start calling you Mr. Austin and Mr. Compton. Thank you all.
We have to separate them,
Yeah.
those are too close together for some reason.
Large scale passes 6-0. Next one, L 20-09, south of 48th Street, South 48th Street Storage, 722 South 48th Street, presented by Bates and Associates. Should have just kept you up there.
Well, there was
No,
a
it-
table.
yeah, we tabled it.
Christian again with Bates and Associates.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is a storage complex located off South 48th Street Storage. There's Central Drive there to the north, and then it's right next to Honda Pro Shop. We have a set of six buildings there on the left, all individual storage buildings, and then a main climate-controlled unit there in the front. You see that long one there. That's up against 48th Street.
So the building on 48th Street, the corner building is 3 stories?
I'm sorry. It was,
The tall building on.
it's technically only going to be a 2-story building. We're going up to be try to gain some height, to be able to kind of gain some visibility. The windows up there are windows that'll be going back to some faux doors to make it appear that it is a 3-story storage complex. But really, that is it's more aesthetics than it is.
Okay, so we had a little bit of concern with building inspection not being 3-story, but y'all work all those details out. Okay, the type of material on the building facing, this building facing 48th Street, what is the material on the front of the building?
The 48th Street is all storefront glazing and masonry.
Okay, and then on the north side of the building, which is the side that's the entrance into the rest of the structures, what is that material on that side?
Primarily masonry. There is approximately 10% or less of an architectural metal panel used on the tower.
Okay. The building on the south side, the shorter one, it's going to have the same kind of front. What does it have on the south side of the building?
And we're talking about specifically this one, or are we talking about
We're still talking about the building in the front.
in the front?
Okay.
So their Rainbow Honda, the front of their facade begins. Can you go back to the color elevations? It'd be the, it might have been a PDF. We're not kind of seeing that side. Very good, right there. So we are primarily using, kind of look at that second elevation up, all masonry, all the way down to the front of the Rainbow Honda. So anything that would be visible, if you will, from the Rainbow Honda parking lot, anything coming in from that south side there is intended to be 100% masonry. Then once we get past the Rainbow Honda main structure, if you will, then we've gone back to a metal panel.
Okay, so you see that in the third row of drawings, that it changes materials when you get further back. And then it's metal with individual doors?
There are doors not on this building, no. This
Okay.
is a climate-controlled building, so the
Okay.
doors that we're seeing there are truly just access corridors, egress corridors.
Okay, there's no break in the roof line, and it's more than 100 feet, correct? On
There
that
is
long building through there?
No, there is no break beyond that front, say, office use conference center.
Okay, so you didn't apply for a variance to allow that not break in the roof line of those 100-foot buildings that were longer than 100 feet? No variance requested, okay.
No, we did not at this time.
So are you going to go back and fix that, or are you going to come back with a variance request?
Likely a variance request.
Okay.
They wanted to push it to that, and if they wanted to go ahead and say
So-
they would
500
fix it.
feet.
Do you want to fix it to where we'll meet the architectural standards, or do you want to ask for the variance?
breaking the roof line.
If we ask for the variance, will that delay the process?
Well, right now, it doesn't meet design standards, and our recommendation is that it doesn't meet design standards and you didn't apply for a variance. So you're asking the planning commission to approve something that does not meet city's requirements. The roof line shall be varied with a change in height every 100 feet, linear feet in the building length. Parapets, gable roofs, high roofs, or dormers shall be used to conceal that flat roofs and rooftop equipment from public view. I mean, that's 500 feet down through there
That's correct.
with no break, okay? And then if you look at the other buildings, let's go and talk about the other buildings. You're proposing to do bricks on the front of each of those buildings that face the street?
That is correct. So every building that is facing, say, a primary street facade, we're improving with a parapet and masonry condition.
Okay, but the sides of all those buildings will look like that with each doors and no breaks in the roof line, and the only breaks are those individual doors, correct?
Correct.
No
No,
brick
well-
pillars between them or anything like that?
10,
No
20.
brick pillars every so many feet along through there or anything like that?
Correct. There are no breaks or material changes there in between the buildings.
Okay.
They are primarily doors.
Okay, Austin, can we go back to the layout so we make sure okay, so the front building is the one that you have that looks like three-story on the front, the shorter on the front as well, and then you have that long 500-foot building down through there with no breaks and no parapet wall,
Currently, no.
okay? And then when you get to the buildings behind it, those first three buildings right behind that, will they have brick fronts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
In
what
fact,
about the side of the building that
Yes,
faces
ma'am.
the street? Okay.
Well, so technically the street curves before it. However, due to the visibility settings there, we provided all brick. Yes, not
Okay.
down there, up.
Okay, go to the top one in that stack of three.
Yes, can I?
Okay,
Yes,
that's
so
the side.
that building has masonry on the east side and the full north side.
Okay. And then all the rest of the buildings are just metal buildings all the way around.
So currently, our plans are.
You want
show-
one of these?
Please. See how good my aim
One
is?
click.
One click here.
You'll need to talk into the mic, though.
Forward one click.
Yeah. That's not the mic. Yeah.
Okay,
That was a
mic
good
here.
one. That was a very good one now.
All righty.
You get credit for that. That was a good one.
That was pretty good. I like
For
that.
those of us that were paying attention.
All
that
right,
was
sounds
really
good. So currently, we have masonry on this facade, we have it on this north facade, and we're currently showing it on all of the eastern facades of these buildings here. So anything that might be visible, not only from the street, but also from the backside over here.
Okay. And to point out, there is a floodplain to the back, and the creek is back behind us.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
so this is really unoccupied, unvisible areas.
Okay, but when you come to this side, to the south side, you are putting screening all the way the same depth as the Honda place, correct?
Yes, so obviously, we've got the landscape screening, we've got a pretty heavy tree line right here that's blocking this building, which is why we're putting the tower on that north side to try to gain some visibility over here. So this is pretty heavily screened already with landscaping.
Okay, now, when you say it's heavily screened, that's not on your property.
It's not, but it's what the neighbor was required to do years ago, and we're dealing with 25, 30 foot, pretty heavily screened materials.
Okay, and so you're doing some kind of landscaping adjacent to the building on that side?
So we're doing a drive, obviously a fire lane access, and then we're providing some perimeter landscaping around the entire building.
Okay.
And then the fencing material, correct me if I'm wrong here, starts here, and there's a gate?
Yes.
So then there's
It starts a little further up there.
right here. So basically, yes, so that we have fencing here, and then so we have a solid privacy screen fence around the perimeter, screening all of these facilities from the rest of the neighborhood as well.
Okay, and you've put a template on there, and trucks can get around through there, and fire trucks can get around all those corners, correct? Okay, like saying, okay. They look awfully tight, I'm glad I don't have to drive around those. Yeah, it's a big piece of property. We need a unified lighting plan. What kind of lighting do you anticipate for this entire?
Wall packs for now. We'd be providing wall packs around the building, which should be able to give us that minimum 1-foot candle on all paved surfaces. We would not be doing any pole lights to try to be polite to our neighbors.
Should be, but we don't know that because we haven't seen a lighting plan, okay? Now, you understand what materials they're using. Basically, it still requires a variance because there's nothing that says all of those buildings can be all metal, predominantly something other than metal, and that's not what we're getting on some of those structures, so. But you didn't file for a variance request.
Any other comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
They did not file a variance request, no.
I think, so, look, here's how I feel. I feel that, normally, I don't like to do this, we don't like to do this at the table. I do appreciate the fact that someone came that knows what the percentages are of the materials. It seems like there's been a deal of thought given to the neighbors and how to design the building. It's not going to change the fact that you'll need to come back for a variance, but I think what I've heard I would feel comfortable voting to move it forward, knowing that you'll need to come back and get a variance for those items. And my recommendation would be that you, highlight some of the things that you're doing that maybe you are not required to do to help that case. But I feel like this wasn't one of the typical presentations where nobody can answer anything and we don't know which way the building faces and that kind of thing. So, me personally, I think looking at the whole picture, I would feel comfortable voting for this to pass this large scale on to the next.
Peyton, you would support that contingent upon them returning
Well, it's
to request the variance?
It's not up to me. It is, they would have to
Well, they either have
request
to
a
meet
variance.
the design standards or they have to come back, one or the other. We either get a revised set of plans that addresses all
I'm
those
saying I'm
issues.
comfortable because it seems that it's far enough along. There are not any.
Disagreement there?
Yeah.
No
But you're
disagreement.
right. But I should clarify that I feel that if you put this up to other scenarios where I think I would vote against moving it forward, I think given engineering, planning, it seems far enough along. There are a few minor items that I think they need to work out, but I'm comfortable moving forward what's in front of us. That's just me.
So what are the implications
If you approve it tonight, their two choices are either submit a revised plan that shows how they addressed all of the design standards or come back with a variance before they can move forward. So, but either way you go, it's a 30-day delay. Either you're going to submit new plans to us,
We will.
or you will get a variance request that we can't hear until next month.
Unfortunately, the variance was not applied for. That was a piece of paperwork that just was not filled out. It was intended to be filled out. Apparently, we didn't have that conversation, but our intent is to apply for the variance.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And specifically, the variance that you're looking to apply for is what?
Specifically, waiver of design standards. Technically, it would be on sides non-facing the street of masonry materials, and then obviously we'd identify the southern facade of the large building, having metal, if you will, for a portion of that building, as well as the roof projections. So again, the design standard would say every 100 feet that we have a roof projection coming out and changing. So we would be requesting waiver of design standards for those specifically, and then submitting color elevations for each one of these buildings that identify.
And there's a new form that tells you have to tell us what percentage and all you're doing for each one of those buildings, so we know exactly what the variance is for each one.
So that's what I'm thinking is that we've got a variance for 1, 2, 3, 4, however many buildings we have, and I'll provide color elevations for every one of those.
And those would be two separate variances, or all in one?
It can all be in
1, 2, 3,
one.
4, 5, 6,
It can all
7,
be in
8,
one.
9, 10, 11.
Because it's just design standards, they're asking for variances. It's a variance to the design standards, but each one of those items need to be articulated so we know exactly what we're talking about.
With this type of structure going in, especially with that floodplain, what's the requirements for retention?
They have detention shown on the property. I think the last conversations we had with Katie, everything was okay. Brad, you want to address this? Is there any issues left over on this one?
We show the detention there. You can see the trickle channel that comes off the pavement into our channel that feeds into our outlet structure. It's adjacent to the floodway there on the southwest.
They're clear on the floodplain. What we've started doing is the FEMA drawing is used by FEMA for flood insurance, but we have better data that's used for best available when we enforce our floodplain ordinance. So they're good.
Map hasn't been revised, but you're using that better data to make these kind of decisions.
Submitted to FEMA, it will become law when they get around to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we were addressing that.
We had
Thomas.
addressed that already, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments?
So this would be a motion subject to staff comments, and the staff comments is that they have to meet all these things, understanding they're going to come back with a variance. The staff comments would stay till the variance is granted. Okay?
Okay, do I have a motion? Okay, motion by Mrs. Mueller,
Second?
second by Dr. Compton.
Parsley,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Large scale passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Next section, Board of Adjustments, B 20-08, Michael Bolvin, 1630 Cisco Avenue, variance for deviation of front setback from 30 feet to 20 feet, or 22 feet, presented by Victor Barrios.
Good evening. We have in a small lot at 1630 Cisco in Springdale, and we would like to build a small house in there. We have 62 feet wide, and it's required 30 feet setback, basically almost half of the property. And in order for us to build a small house there, we need a variance. Instead of 30, 22 feet, which will be nice, and then we can
There's
build.
nothing on the lot right now.
No, ma'am.
Right, because it looks like.
It's
okay.
vacant lot.
Which way will the house face? Will it face Cisco?
No.
Okay, it'll face the other way.
The house
Yes. Lengthwise.
Face Stevens?
Okay, and the 30-foot variant, the variance of 8 feet you want on the Stevens side?
Yes.
Okay, and you would be 30 feet off of Cisco on
Yes.
the south?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we know what we're talking about. Okay.
So the variance is for Stevens.
Yes.
Yes, the variance is for Stevens.
Okay. Any staff comments?
No, now that I understand what we're talking about.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? It's to the commission.
That's a pretty tight fit on that lot. What's the square footage of the home you're looking to build?
1344.
Okay, so you've already got your plans done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what this is.
In which way will, that's this one, which way will it face?
Makes sense.
Now I know. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Face to the west. Face onto Stevens.
We won't be
home- the
able
home
to
is there and
feed,
it'll face this way.
to do anything, any house more than 1,000 square feet if we face Cisco. That's the reason we had to turn around and face to the other street.
Must be a call for the vote.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I have this, but the variance is being requested on Cisco or Stevens?
Stevens. Yeah.
From 30 feet to.
22.
But the garage is going to face that way.
Yes, sir.
Right. Which means there's just barely room to park a car in there.
Right, I mean, I feel like we just kind of, it's real tight.
It's tight.
Sidewalk requirements?
That's because back when these houses were built, they didn't have 15-foot setbacks on each side.
They will be required to do a sidewalk on both sides.
Okay, and so how long do you estimate the driveway to be?
22
I'm sorry, 22 feet? Okay.
from the street to the house.
See what they're all the way down?
Yeah.
Standard parking space is 19 foot deep, so they got
Yeah.
room to park one car outside the garage. That's basically what it comes down to.
Okay.
But when you put a sidewalk in and all of that, that's going to be still allowed in
It'll still
19.
be off of the sidewalk, or should be.
Yes.
To be clear, the sidewalk, yeah.
Correct.
And you are going to put a sidewalk in, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we also,
And that's on both
we are
sides.
gonna pay or deposit the money
Oh.
for the for the
They,
sidewalks.
they want to do payment in lieu of
Yeah,
doing the
that's-
sidewalk
sure.
themselves,
Yes,
so
sir.
it doesn't connect to anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to cover that, otherwise you'll be back here again on this, so,
Yes.
okay. Good, okay.
Thanks.
So the change on here is that this is really a variance for deviation of front setback, 30 feet to 22 feet on Stevens and not Cisco.
Well, it's addressed off of Cisco, it has two fronts. So technically, but we understand that that's what's done.
But because the setback is going to be on Stevens, it needs
Yes.
to be read that way.
We also did that change because we've been recommended to do the entrance not in the curb, close to the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
for safety
And it will be
reasons.
readdressed and have an address off of
Yes.
Stevens, not Cisco, once the front door changes.
Okay. Let's be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller?
Austin,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Parsley.
Yes. Variance passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last item we have on here is B 20-10, David Mancia, 1102 Bacchus, variance for deviation of paved parking requirement presented by Victor Vasquez.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Victor Velasquez, and I'm here with Mr. David Mancia, and he's hoping to get permission to put some gravel in the back and use that space as more space for the cars in the car lot that he opened.
Okay, when you came in and asked for the conditional use to put this car lot on that lot, did you not tell us at that time you had sufficient place to park
Yes.
the cars you wanted to put on there?
Y le están preguntando que cuando usted vinimos le habíamos dicho que si tenía suficiente en el frente. Creo que lo que me están preguntando es por qué estamos ustedes atrás. Sí, pero me están preguntando,
Yeah.
lo que están diciendo ellos es que cuando vinimos la primera vez habíamos dicho que no, que eso era suficiente. Nomás, pero usted, yes, ma'am, you're absolutely right.
Okay, and I've noticed by going by there, it's parked just about as full of cars as it can be now. But there are cars parked in the back already on the grass?
¿Tiene carros estacionados atrás?
No.
No. He says, haven't seen the property.
Okay, well, I
He
saw
says-
some parked there this weekend.
Dice que ella pasó por
I'm
ahí, que
concerned
miró-
because you told us at the time when we were doing this conditional use that it was adequate space, and now you're coming back for some more space. I personally cannot recommend that we grant this variance and allow them to put more on there. I would have recommended we set the conditional use with a number of cars that would only fit on the front when the conditional use was being requested, had I known that they were going to
Lo que
look to
ella
park
está
some in the
diciendo
back.
es que porque está pidiendo que cuando venimos de principio habíamos dicho que nomás íbamos a lo de frente.
Any questions or
Que eso
comments
era
from the audience?
suficiente. Ahora me está diciendo que
It's to the commission.
So
por la de atrás.
you're asking for a deviation to pave the back?
Well, he doesn't want.
gravel.
Good. Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
thought you were talking to him because he answered. Oh, he was talking to me? Oh, yes, he doesn't want to use the pavement. He would rather do the gravel, not only because of the price, but because if he decides to not use it anymore, he feels that the gravel would be easier to remove and put the grass back in there. But the reason, and you're absolutely right, when he first came in here, the impression what he had told me is that he only wanted to use the front. Now he asked me, and I just.
So what changed? What changed that we have to have all this additional space
Well,
to park more cars?
Probably the more cars you sell, the more cars you have in the property, the more he can offer
Well,
to sell.
and I
That's
understand that, except we were allowing you to go into a place that is not, I mean, there was a car lot before there that operated with that limited number of cars. I don't see that that's something that's good for the neighborhood to allow it to be parked completely full of cars. And
que ella está diciendo es
can
que
you
no
get down on both sides?
Yeah,
What's
how will
the
you get back
distance?
there?
I'm sorry.
How are you getting cars to the back?
¿Cómo piensa usted llevarlos para allá atrás? ¿Tiene suficiente lado en el lado? ¿Por el lado? ¿Por el cual? He feels that there's enough space on ese que está ahí, on the side, on the right-hand side. He feels that there's like to drive.
What
the
is that
cars back
space? How wide is it?
there. ¿Sí sabe qué ancho está?
Talking right here.
He said about 10 feet.
Yeah.
10, 12 feet, that's what he says.
Well, you can't pass cars going through on 10 feet. That's pretty narrow.
What does the back of the building look like?
It's just a backyard. normal.
I mean,
but-
what does the back of the building look like?
The back of the house. It used to be a house, so
Okay.
it just looks like the back of a house.
Yeah, I'm struggling with it.
I mean, I personally understand that what the lady, not that she's upset, but as far as what they came in, but he's just asking me to ask if it's okay. I mean, that's all I can do.
Well, you know,
is-
what we try to do with the conditional use is we try to be flexible with places that are not really a good fit under normal circumstances. So we try, you know, so we will approve a conditional use to give it a shot type deal. But eventually, a big car lot just needs to be in a different place, right? It
yes.
just, if business is good, that's great, but that just means he's gonna have to find a spot that's better for, better fit for that.
And I would certainly prefer a parking lot. I would just prefer that it be paved than it be gravel. If we think about the overall, I mean, the back lot is paved, even though I still don't understand how you would get cars.
We have to come back with a site plan if he's gonna pave the back and we're gonna allow him to access it, because I don't know that fire access is available to the back. If you had cars parked back there, how would you get to them?
That was my next
Not an
question, is
improvement.
what items queue up the, you know, re-looking at the conditional use, from what I understand, is usually approved as presented to us at the time it's voted on, if anything changes. Not just, I don't want to pave it. If we want to pave any other part of it, it has to come back for us, right?
I would agree. I would agree that
That's my
if he wants to extend the area to be paved, the conditional use needs to be looked at. He don't want to do that unless he knows he can put gravel back there.
Well, you know, and I was just asking the judge, he's like, he doesn't want to cause any problems. He feels that pavement is, he doesn't want a pavement. He's like, pavement
Sure.
is not it. And he was just asking, and, you know, he understands where y'all are coming
Sure.
from as far as, it used to be a house.
So are you withdrawing your request for this variance then? And you're
¿Quieres
going to
hacer
only
para atrás
park
o
cars
quieres-
along the paved surface in the front?
Me está diciendo que si quiere hacernos para atrás, o si quiere seguir pidiendo. He said it's okay, he'll withdraw it, he'll withdraw it. So he says, feels it's okay.
But you're right, you know, it's just like the item on the agenda earlier, everybody has the right to come.
Yeah.
Request.
That's the
That's the
way
way it
we
goes.
appreciate the opportunity.
No, and as Peyton said, I mean, it's great, the business is incredibly successful, it sounds like. But that's when it's time to move on to a
Yep, and
different
that's what,
location.
that's what well, we appreciate the
Okay,
opportunity.
that's the beauty of some of these conditional uses on here, is it allows businesses to test the water and see what's an opportunity. But if it's having that type of sustainable growth, it needs to be in a place that makes more sense.
Yeah, agree. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate your patience tonight. Planning Director report?
I want to report on the actions that were taken by the council in February. There was an application submitted for a taxi cab operation that was approved, Fayetteville Taxi, and I tell you that because now we have a taxi service in Springdale. We've kind of had some in and out. Right now, we have one that's operating. The conditional use for the tandem lot on Brown Road was approved. The waiver of the sidewalk for Sunset Ridge was approved. Just to let you know what's going on, the council did approve the issuance of refunding bonds for the 2012 bonds, which is resulting in about $950,000 per year savings to the city for the next 5 years. They set the maximum price for construction of the street and sidewalks on Shaw Family Park, so that's moving forward. And just to let you know that they adopted a strategic plan for the fire department. We still haven't got up with a party date, and quite honestly, Debbie and I remembered that this morning when we were putting all this together, that we hadn't done anything with it. So I think she's got some proposed dates that she'll send out and see if that works for anybody. I know this is a tough month because it's spring break and all that kind of stuff going on. You asked me to look into seeing if we could get a tour at the Game and Fish Nature Center. They have a tour scheduled for Thursday, March the 25th from 10 to 11:30, but they are willing to come back and do one at 5:30 for anybody who can make it that night.
Spring break.
I told them that was spring break week, and so we'll try to do it. The tour people that coming up here, we'll try to set up another time a little later on. But if anybody can go on the 26th at 10:30, let me know, or at 10, or that evening. I'm going to send it to the council as well to see if anybody can do that. The next work session is set for March the 17th at 5:30, and Dr. Jim Rollins with the school district will be here to talk about their 5-year plan. Okay? That's all I have. Yeah, it's a 10 to 11:30 is the one that's already scheduled, and I just need to let them know how many people are going to be there so they know how many hard hats to have. If you can go to that one, if not, we're trying to see if we want to set one at 5:30, see if the council and whatever planning commission members could go to that one, or if that doesn't work, the next time they come up, we'll try to schedule it then. I know it's a bad time since it's spring break, so.
If we can have the city council at the next work session, I think that'd be really good.
We will invite them to the work session on the 17th when Dr. Rollins is here. And he asked how much time, and I told him he had at least an hour. So y'all have to see, he'll take an hour, we know if we give him an hour, so,
And then the only other thing was, I also think it would be good to be able to do another tour.
Right. I'm working on getting that put together too. I didn't figure it was a good time to try to do it in March with spring break, and so we'll try to do that sometime in April, probably around.
Yeah, so for the newer members, we've done tours as far as looking at different properties from a community. See, that changed, not community engagement.
To neighborhood services.
Neighborhood services, and then we also had the water departments give a tour as well. And that's very insightful to be able to see as far as what's going on with the water department. A lot of enormous projects that are going on right now with them. So yeah, I mean, if that is a tour we can get put in place, typically do it during the week, during the day. So it is a commitment as far as away from your regular jobs, but I would highly advise if you get an opportunity to do that, you should. It gives you a different perspective of Springdale when you're on that. So anything else?
And I didn't try to schedule that in March. I thought.
No, I appreciate you didn't.
Pushing my luck a little much with it being the week of spring break, so.
Very good.
March 17th, Dr. Rollins.
See, the polls close at 7:30, so if anyone hasn't voted, they still have time to go out. So anything else? All right, appreciate it. Meeting adjourned.